Rome has fought many foreign enemies since the days of the Republic. They fought against the Etruscans, and there was also the famous War of Pyrrhus. In addition, Rome fought numerous wars, such as the Punic War against Carthage and the Macedonian War.
However, in these large and small wars, there was a population who continued to harass Rome, and that was the Germanic people. The history of the Germanic tribes was only recorded through the eyes of the Romans, and there are no records left by the tribes themselves.
These barbarians descended from the north in the before Christ era and moved eastward to the Black Sea coast, where various Germanic barbarians established themselves outside the borders of Rome. As time passed, the Germanic population steadily increased in numbers. It was difficult to secure food with the land they were living on, and they covered the fertile territory of Rome. However, it was not an easy decision to invade, as it was a risky act for an entire tribe to enter Roman territory. But soon they had to make a dangerous choice, and they could not help but risk their lives to protect their futures, because of the Huns who appeared in the middle of the 3rd century. The Huns, a nomadic people from Central Asia, were feared powers at the time and were gradually moving westward. The Germanic people now had to choose one of the two. They were given the choice of being conquered by the Huns or risking their lives to break through the Roman borders. The first to attempt a Germanic migration was the Visigoths. The Huns were moving west and soon invaded the Germanic tribes of the Ostrogoths and Visigoths. The Visigoths couldn't stand the influx of Huns, so they asked the Roman Emperor Valens for a favor. The Visigoths asked to be allowed to move within the borders of Rome. The emperor granted this permission, and in 375 the Visigoths crossed the Danube and established themselves within the Roman Empire. The emperor thought that the Visigoths could be used as a military force for Rome. However, it was not easy for the two powers who fought across the border to coexist without incident. The governor of the province treated the Visigoths with contempt, and soon after insulting treatment and even famine in 378, the Visigoths raised an army and took up arms against the emperor. The Visigoths plundered the Balkans and won a great victory, including putting Emperor Valens to death at the Battle of Adrianople. This great victory surprised all the Romans, but the Visigoths did not take much advantage. The areas occupied by Visigoths were mere provincial towns with little productivity. The situation was reversed when Theodosius I, a capable soldier, succeeded Valens on the throne, and Theodosius negotiated with the Visigoths. The Visigoths returned to the ranks of allies. Sometime after that, Theodosius I died in 395.
A man who led a Goth unit in the Roman army at the time heard the news of the emperor's death and left the army to become a Visigoth chieftain. He was Alaric, the greatest king of the Visigoths. The Visigoths, who rose up under Alaric in 396, openly expressed their resentment and hostility toward Rome and swept through Greece.
Hearing this news, Stilicho, a Roman general, requested suppression of the rebellion, but was denied permission. Eventually, in 397, he received permission and defeated and besieged Alaric twice in Greece. However, Alaric escaped the siege, took control of Epirus, and negotiated with the officials of Constantinople.
The war with Rome and the Visigoths was over, and Alaric was appointed general of Illyricum. What Alaric did after becoming a general in the Illyricum region was to legally create weapons.
This was a major step in uniting the Visigoths, as it gave them the means to defend themselves and to fight for their rights. Alaric was a skilled military leader, and he used his position to build up the Visigoths' military strength.
He also used his political skills to negotiate with the Roman authority on behalf of the Visigoths. As a result of Alaric's efforts, the Visigoths became a powerful force in the Illyricum region. Alaric, who grew stronger in the Illyricum region, decided to invade. All the provinces under the emperor's rule were devastated, and the provinces of Asia were remote, but Constantinople withstood Alaric's attacks. The reasons why Constantinople withstood Alaric's attacks are complex. One reason is that the city was well fortified. Theodosian walls, which were built in the 5th century, were some of the most impressive fortifications in the world. So Alaric turned his attention to the Italian peninsula of Western Rome. In 402, Alaric led the Visigoths in an attack on the Italian peninsula. Everyone trembled with fear, but again General Stilicho stepped in and defeated him. But in 406, the situation began to deteriorate rapidly. General Stilicho had no choice but to neglect the defense of the Rhine in order to defend Italy. After all, the Vandals, driven by the Huns, broke through the borders and rushed like a flood into the Roman Empire. The Vandals plundered Gaul and settled in Aquitaine in southern Gaul, which is now southern France. But soon the Vandals crossed over to the Iberian Peninsula. Stilicho took responsibility for this situation and was executed by the incompetent emperor of the Western Roman Empire, Honorius. Alaric of the Visigoths, who had been repelled by Stilicho many times, did not miss this golden opportunity. In 409 AD, Alaric raised a large army and invaded Italy for the second time. He quickly conquered much of the Italian peninsula, and the city of Rome was forced to pay him a large sum of money as a bribe to delay his attack. In a situation where Romans did not want to join the army, and even the soldiers' ranks were being filled with Germanic tribes, the Romans were trying to negotiate with money rather than force. But in the end, Alaric marched again, and in 410 attacked and plundered the city of Rome, the heart of the Roman Empire. Having plundered the city of Rome, Alaric attempted to establish a kingdom by moving to the province of Africa, one of the Roman Empire's breadbaskets. However, Alaric soon died of a fever, and the remaining Visigoths decided to settle in the Iberian Peninsula. The Visigoths established the Visigoth kingdom in Aquitaine in southern Gaul and gradually expanded their influence to the Iberian Peninsula, where the Vandals were. The Vandals were gradually pushed out by the Visigoths and eventually pushed into North Africa in 429. Fortunately, the Roman provinces of North Africa at the time were in chaos, almost on the brink of civil war due to heretical controversies. The king of the Vandals in North Africa was Alaric, who was also an excellent warrior. Taking advantage of the turmoil in North Africa, he subjugated all African Roman provinces and established the Vandal kingdom.
Alaric, who founded the Vandal kingdom, crossed the Mediterranean Sea and began to attack southern Italy. Finally, in 455, he invaded the city of Rome and sacked it more thoroughly than the Visigoths did in 410.
Meanwhile, the Burgundians, who crossed the Baltic Sea and settled in what is now Poland, crossed the Rhine with the Vandals. The Burgundians established their kingdom on the Middle Rhine in 411, but it was brutally destroyed by the Huns in 436.
The Burgundian kingdom in the Rhone Valley was centered around the cities of Lyon and Geneva. The Huns, who constantly harassed and pushed the Germanic tribes outside the borders of the Roman Empire, were wasting their strength in the discord and aimless, obscure raids of independent chieftains.
At this time, the famous Attila came to the throne and started a joint reign with his old brother Bleda. Attila once again unites the forces of the Huns, and once again Europe is gripped by fear. The Romans were able to prevent the Huns from invading the empire for a time by using the Germanic people as a buffer zone.
The Romans would pay the Germanic tribes to keep the Huns out of their territory. This strategy was known as the Germanic lines. But now the Huns were determined to take Rome themselves. Attila attacked the Eastern Roman Empire. From the Black Sea to the Adriatic Sea, every place became a battlefield and was invaded, occupied, and devastated by the Huns. The emperor urgently recalled the Sicilian army fighting Alaric of the Vandal kingdom and withdrew the Persian garrison, but the Eastern Roman Empire was gradually defeated. The Eastern Roman Empire was pushed to the outskirts of Constantinople, and citizens were taken prisoner. But even Attila could not cross the walls of Constantinople. Eventually, in 449, the two made peace. However, the terms of peace that Attila demanded of the Eastern Roman Empire was harsh. He tripled the gold he had received in the name of the subsidy to 2,100 pounds and demanded a direct payment of 6,000 pounds in gold as compensation. The Huns received gold and withdrew from Eastern Roman territory, and through battle, they learned that the Eastern Roman Empire was not as easy an opponent as they thought. Finally, in 451, under the leadership of King Attila, a large army of Huns crossed the Rhine, and Attila decided to attack Western Roman Gaul, which was part of the Western Roman Empire. Attila's goal was to conquer Gaul and then move on to Italy and conquer Rome. The Romans were caught off guard by Attila's invasion, and they were unable to mount a strong defense. Attila's army quickly conquered much of Gaul, and it seemed that nothing could stop him. However, the Romans were able to rally and form an alliance with the Visigoths, another Germanic tribe. The combined Roman Visigoth army met Attila's army at the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains in 451 AD.
The battle was a long and bloody one, but in the end, the Romans and Visigoths were victorious. Attila was forced to withdraw his army from Gaul, and his plans to conquer Italy were thwarted.
The Battle of the Catalaunian Plains was a major turning point in the history of the Western Roman Empire. It showed that the Romans were still capable of defeating barbarian invaders, and it helped to boost morale in the empire.
However, the battle also showed that the empire was in decline, and it was only a matter of time before it fell. Attila died in 453 AD, and the Huns were never again a major threat to the Roman Empire.
However, the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains is still remembered today as one of the most important battles in Roman history. Thank you for watching the video, Threats to Roman Dominance, provided by History and Current Events. Gina, Bella, Cindy, Helena, and Tony have contributed so far as narrators. Thank you.